Should we call the meeting to order? Start off with a pledge.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jump start us there.
We can do that when a meeting is going.
Okay, let's start with the approval of the agenda.
So approved.
So we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented
Support.
with support. Any discussion or changes to the agenda? Welcome, Russ. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, agenda approved. That takes us then to the minutes for the last meeting, October 23rd. In your packet, everyone's had a chance to look at them. Are there any corrections noted by anybody, or questions?
I don't have it. I wasn't still trying to concentrate. Don't wait for me. And I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 23rd regular meeting. Is there support? You got one of them, okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of the October 23rd meeting approved. Public comment. See no public. Correspondence. Do you have anything different?
I have several things, so I made copies for everyone. The first one is, we have a fund with the Community Foundation, so I thought I would start sharing the quarterly report that they send us. So that's the first one. The second one is from, I think at the end of our meeting last month,
I have to go back on the first one.
Sure.
What is this fund for?
What is this fund for?
I know of it, and I've probably asked this a couple years ago, but
I'm guessing it was a fund that was created, I don't know
Years
how many
ago.
years ago. And we can draw from this fund yearly. When I first started, Laura came and met with me, and it's like a little over like $2,000 a year that we can utilize from this fund for the library. So moving forward, we may want to utilize this since the money is there.
okay. So is this like a traditional endowment fund that the community can contribute to?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we-
It is.
Do we know if anybody's ever contributed other than the library when we initially set it up?
In the years that I know of, we've never made a campaign to publicize it and encourage people, but I have a feeling there may have been bequests in will that people mentioned it over the years, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and recently, I'd say in the last year, there's been a couple articles in the paper about it too.
About the library
No,
fund?
about the Manistee County Community
Oh,
Foundation.
oh, yeah.
I have a question. Is there any stipulation on to how we could spend this $2,000?
I believe all we have to do is write a letter to the Community Foundation and just let them know what we would like to utilize it for, and then they grant it or don't grant it.
You know, the question though you have to decide is it, you're only getting the interest and dividends. Is that, do you want to use that, or do you, otherwise it's reinvested, is this money that you want to have grow
Yeah.
permanently? So it's not $2,000. And some years it was probably zero when the stock market was in the negative, so it's not a reliable 2,000.
No, it's just, would be an interesting way to look at, say, maybe anything we want that, for education,
I know, but they don't do
anything that might come up that's,
like 8 quarters.
we could enhance a program or something.
Does this fund come with, I don't know what the term would be, but I'll call them bylaws as to how the funds are supposed to be distributed and what that process is?
I could find out.
I think that'd be.
Would you
Are
guys
you-
like
are
me
you
to?
on-
I used
you
to
on
be
the-
on, I used to be on the foundation.
I was gonna
board,
say, you
so-
sound more
But yeah,
knowledgeable than the
I mean,
rest of
there's
us.
probably a fund, there's probably a contract for this fund, depending on how long ago it was set up. And, I mean, I think it was set up a long time ago. It may just be that the library can spend it on library activities. I have a feeling it's probably as broad as that.
Okay,
But as Deborah said, I think you just put in a request to Laura and have to be approved by their board, so.
okay.
So you want
My
to
reconciliation, I can probably shed some light, since I've been here forever. Is the fund was created by the library initially, many years ago. There was a gifts and bequest fund that was a separate fund, and every time there was a bequest that came into the library, it went into this fund, and this huge amount built up. And then to try to get outside people to do more, they put the original contribution by the library was $50,000.
Okay.
So that's what's grown since then. And whatever contract they had in place at that point in time, the foundation, that's what was signed. But my understanding at that point, when this was contributed, it was a permanent endowment,
Mhm.
and just the earnings could be spent.
The question is on what and some of those.
Just library operations,
Okay.
anything within the library, there were no restrictions.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I made a note, I will meet with Laura and find out more about it, and let you guys know more next month.
Wouldn't it be interesting if we contributed to the scholarships that the foundation routinely gives out, and it came from this fund, even if it was just $500 or $1,000 to a student who was interested in library, I don't know what the careers are called.
library science.
Library
Library
science.
But again, that might be outside what we're allowed to spend it on. because
Well,
it's not
based on
library-
what David
at least
just
in
said.
Library operations, that would
that's
be
Ah, that
operations.
could be outside.
Yes, so that's why understanding that.
And I would wonder if people would question our giving, with tax dollars, giving scholarships and gifts to other
I
organizations.
guess you're right. I guess if that was,
Well,
Mike.
were these tax dollars or were these the result of previous
They were
gifts?
previous gifts to be
So they're
passed.
not tax
Okay,
dollars
okay.
per se.
We could always invest in our employees too. A lot of today's libraries put separate money into an education fund for employees who are interested in library science and learning more about, and so that's something we could look at too.
And this is certainly a fund, at some point we should be publicizing it, because people are giving money to endowed funds, and they're not getting the same tax benefits this year as previous years, but it's still something that a lot of people do, so.
And I believe with my first meeting with Laura, she said that that was something that, as we move forward and, we're doing renovations or whatever we're doing, it's something that we may want to open up. So that's a good idea, Ross.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is a letter from, I'm not sure how you pronounce their name, but it's in regards to the drop box that got injured in Onekama. So what is happening, the guy's insurance company is paying for it. We have all the paperwork submitted. I have to return today, and so we'll be getting reimbursement for the drop box because it cannot be repaired.
how much do you think it's gonna cost?
Well, what we did, we found a new one, that's the same as the one this one was purchased in 2004. So it was like $5,000 some dollars, but then they depreciate it, so it's like $2,600 that we will get. But we recently bought a drop box for Arcadia, and we know that we can get a replacement for that cost with our discount and sales and stuff, so I feel that, that will cover it.
The $2,600?
Yeah, yeah. We did have 2 drop boxes in Onekama, so we took the one that was on the roadside and put it where this drop box was.
Can I ask, is the location of the drop box an issue?
Um,
Like, I don't know about this incident, so.
I don't think so. From what the guy, he had called and he wanted to make things right. And I'm guessing he was sitting in the parking lot, maybe using the Wi-Fi or something, and he, instead of putting it in forward, he put it in reverse and,
Oh,
so.
okay.
But yeah, it's
So it's
something.
not in a strange, awkward spot then?
I don't think so.
And it's been there
I mean,
since 2004, did you say?
I'm guessing. I mean, that's when it was purchased, so.
So I'm trying to, after reading the letter, so it's covered by insurance. So are we submitting it to insurance and then?
His
he's gonna-
insurance.
His insurance.
His
is
insurance
gonna-
contacted us.
Okay.
We got the quote for him and then he said the paperwork, stated, because they have to depreciate it,
Right.
and then
Right.
we'll
It-
get
it
a
was-
check for it.
Piece of it was his insurance.
His insurance,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Ours is not involved, and there's no
No.
separation.
Nope, because he knew it was his fault, and so he went to this attorney
Okay.
and wanted to make things right, so.
Well, I commend him for that.
Yes, when he called me, I knew that had to been really hard for him, and I told him that, we really appreciate it, and, so, yeah, he was very sorry.
Stuff happens.
It does.
At least he wasn't drunk, so it makes me feel better.
The next one is regarding, the, water bill for Caliva, due to, aging water wells, that are, going to be replaced.
I was right.
All water bills will be increased by 38, wow, 5%. Oh, for the first quarter. So it's one higher bill when we review this, so.
Any questions? Okay, the next one has to do with the MERS pension overbilling. I think you guys recall from several months ago that when I was reviewing the invoices, discovered that the billing wasn't right, so I believe Lisa and Rachel had went back. I'm still going to ask for a detailed invoice for it, because I think it needs to go back further than what they did. But in the meantime, here's what has been sent in regards to that.
Deborah, I can send you the detail.
have it?
They sent us the detail.
Great, could you forward that to me, because I
Yes.
want to take a look and check the dates.
The spreadsheet goes back to April of 13.
Yeah, I believe it needs to go
Wow.
back further.
Wow.
If we look at the union contract, so.
I'll have report.
Do you feel like this is Christmas with all the money we've been getting?
Well, we won't actually be getting this, right?
No, hopefully
It's
the
just-
employees.
So, well, it's less, it means it'll be less.
Less money that we have to put out for it.
Right,
a few months.
Yeah, so I guess
So-
it is money we can use elsewhere.
Richard,
Right.
has this come up at the county commission that there's a $40-some thousand mistake that the
No.
county's now owing back to the library?
No.
Okay, you might ask about that. I mean, we're happy, but it's gotta come
We're
from
not-
somewhere,
Yeah,
so.
I'm glad
I
we.
just, I'm not gonna say anything. I can find out about it.
I was just curious if that
You
would
would
have.
think they might wanna know.
And where was the calculation, I mean, too many people, what? do you
What
have
they-
any,
what they
short
did-
summary of-
In the union contract in 2011, the MERS plan changed. And the county continued to charge the flat fee for all the employees. And then there was a cap, the cap changed.
So they
And
didn't.
so that's why I want to do some further looking, because I believe it should go back to 2011. So rather than changing out as new employees came in, any new employees after 2011 was at this lower rate. And the county continued to just charge that flat rate for all employees.
It was a percent different or something like that, so.
Okay, so they didn't use the lower rate for new hires after 2011. Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Really, that's pretty awesome. That was figured out. Good job.
Every board has a little problem, I'm sorry. I've got another one on another board too. It's not with the county.
Okay.
It's with our healthcare system. So, but I mean, everybody's got a little problem.
The next one is a nice letter that was sent by Barbara.
I got it. Good move.
Nice. I'm
And that
assuming that is all
That concludes
correspondence.
the correspondence.
Okay. Financials.
We just got this recently, so we weren't able to go into finalize just September yet. And midstream last year, Deborah had asked that the financial statements be redrafted into a format that was easier for her to fill out her report to the state. And then would also be in, easier to compare to other libraries, because their format is different. And I'm in the process of redoing that, and we'll have the final September, October, and November to December meeting.
Okay.
So, and I'll have the draft, I'm halfway through the reformat. I'll have the draft to you probably by the end of the week, so you could okay the draft.
So will the new format be applied to September or just for the new fiscal year going
I
forward?
can do it as of September because, yeah.
Okay.
Once I change it in QuickBooks, it really goes back to whenever you want to apply, whenever you want to call up a financial statement.
Administrative report.
Well, real quick though, can I go back to this letter from Barbara?
Okay.
Deborah, do you not, Deborah, do you compliment staff for the work that they do?
I do, very much so. I probably say thank you 20 times a day. I appreciate my staff. So, yeah, I was kind of taken back by that comment, because I do thank my staff. I thank my
I'm
staff.
sure you do.
I
but-
thank my staff all the time. So I want everybody to know that.
Correct.
And Helen can, you know, anytime I ask Helen for something, I say thank you. I really want you to know, I do.
Yeah, I figured that, but it's just, you know.
What would make you think she doesn't?
Was that the,
No, I just,
Please share your appreciation, the positive notes you give with your staff.
well, from patrons and from other people, just everybody.
I didn't read this as saying anything other than good job.
Yeah, I guess that's what I thought it was.
I guess I read it differently, but I like reading things positively too.
Well, that was my intent, was just to, I mean, just to, but, you know, some of the questions the research people get, because I've been in the library and they want to know how can you tell how old mineral oil is? I mean, really? I thought, they get all kinds of questions.
I think the appreciation too needs to come from the patrons.
Right, and I do tell them that, you know, because.
I'm not up there, and so, you know, I know I myself like to be told thank you.
Right.
I like to be appreciated also, but I think with the staff that's on the floor,
Right.
it really needs to come from the patrons.
Yeah,
Right.
it comes from the patrons, because that's a key element in establishing a rapport.
We're the ones who use the library. and so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, the research, you know, just everybody, the whole staff is wonderful. And they ask questions, and half the time I come in here and don't know what kind of book I want, and they give me all kinds of books. And
I think you should write them a letter and thank them for the work that they do. Maybe we could do some sort of employee appreciation type from patrons, you know. I've worked places where, you know, there's always something out that if an employee did something really spectacular for a customer, it allows the customer to write a, thank you so much for, you know, your effort. And then the employees get that feedback from the people that they serve.
they
That
get
was the
that,
intent. That's
and they
a
get
nice thing.
goodies.
Yeah, I know, I think it was last week or the week before, you know, I'm getting, where the reference librarians are also helping with tech questions. And it's really like, they're really feeling empowered by being able to not only answer those mineral oil questions, but how do I do this? And so one of my employees who was, when I first started here, was not comfortable with tech. And, you know, I said, just start doing it. And if you need help, ask one of your coworkers. And there was patrons that brought her a box of candy, you know, so, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I found that they answer some of my tech questions too. I mean, I'm just amazed at the knowledge that they know. And they do get thanked personally, and then they get cookies and muffins and.
I'm sure there's people who take it for granted also, because there
Right,
are
there are
also
They
those,
do.
you know, but yeah.
Right.
They do, you're always
Yeah.
great to have those
But,
ones.
yeah,
Right,
but the ones
you
who
are.
are grateful.
Right, we do express our thanks.
Okay, moving on to the administrative report. The written report was included in the packets. Do you have anything to add in addition to which?
Our parties, bigger parties that we've been having have just been overflowing this room. I think I said that last month. You know, we had a lot of people that came through here on Halloween. It's just amazing. We had a Pete the Cat party a couple weeks ago, 125 people. So, you know I said before, we really need to start thinking about something because, you know, people are really appreciating these bigger events that we are holding here at the library. We are currently, Dave, trying to utilize the armory for our Christmas party. So we're working on that, so I believe Aaron's going to bring it to the board because of the patrons that are coming to these parties. So I'll let you know, but our Christmas party, I believe it's the 8th or the 9th, whatever that Saturday is, may be held at the armory.
I have a question because I heard that Robert is leaving or he's left by now.
He's left.
He left.
Right, Dave?
He went, yeah, I was really kind of upset. So do they have a new director yet? Dave, do you know if they have a new director?
Yeah, I'm on the board and actually the executive committee. No, we don't have a new director yet. We are starting a search for a new director. What we are currently doing, we have Aaron there that is an administrative assistant that is handling things wonderfully for us right now. We have met with, I mean, because the Armory is non-denominational organization, okay? We have met with all of the local, well, most of the local youth pastors. They are volunteering their time to help us run it on various days. So we will continue operations until we have a new full-time director. So the community, I mean, we're getting, I know this is non-religious thing, but I'll just say it anyway. It's a religious thing and I'm not supposed to say it, but we're getting churches to work together in the community, which is something that's traditionally never happened.
That's what.
Okay, so, I mean, because we have these youth pastors from 4 different congregations that are coming in and helping us run the facilities on a daily basis. So, there will be a replacement. Probably, it's gonna,
It'll take a while.
it's gonna take us 4 to 5 months to find a replacement. But we will be running and carrying on.
Awesome.
That's gonna have an interesting impact on the community, because it's not like it's a short term, but the ministers working together for 4 to 5 months, I mean, almost 6 months,
Mhm.
that's gonna have a, I think, very positive impact,
That's what I see.
yeah.
I had a
That's
question under
serendipity.
administrative, you signed the contract for the audit, was there, I guess I lost track, was there a new contract, is this?
It's a continuation,
And
Okay,
we'll-
oh, all right,
but
okay.
it has to be
That-
signed yearly.
Oh, got it,
So
okay,
Barry
I
and
didn't realize it had to be signed annually, okay.
Yeah, I had looked into
Okay.
that because I had looked from last year and knew you guys had talked about 3 years, but then the one last year just covered 1 year.
Got
So,
it. Okay, thank you.
You, in your report, you talk about an exceptional team leadership workshop. Since you mentioned exceptional, I'm curious, a little more detail.
That was the name of it.
Oh, so that was the name, okay, I thought that was it.
That was the name of it. It was up in Traverse City. Very, very interesting. So some things I'm going to take from that and try to pull a little more teamwork together here. So coming soon.
I didn't realize exceptional was part of the name, I thought
Yeah.
that was your description of it.
Yeah, because we all want an exceptional team. So we do have a staff meeting on Thursday, and that process will begin there.
Okay.
One additional thing I wanted to share, I'm sorry, I only made 5 copies. I can get the rest of you a copy afterwards, is I had, I'm in the Manistee Area Leadership Program. And so far we have had 2 days. October was Natural Resource Day, and last month was Education Day. So I wanted to share you the agendas, the places we've been. The Education Day was really very good and making a lot of connections, a lot of outreach that can be done. So just wanted to share that with you. The Natural Resource Day, it was also educational because it took me places I haven't been yet in Manistee County and learning about the different places that there are here.
Thanks. I had a couple more questions. The marketing your library workshops. It sounds like there were multiple of those. Is that an ongoing series?
This is actually a group I'm participating in. There's someone from Michigan Library Association that is leading the team. What they do for these different workshops that the Michigan Library Association put together, they put teams together of library people all across the state. And so we are working on this workshop, Marketing Your Library, which is going to be held in May.
Oh, so you're creating.
So I'm
workshops,
working
so
with this team to
You're
create
learning
it.
and.
Yes.
That's an interesting approach.
Yes, because you get feedback from other libraries and what they're doing. And in the meantime, we're creating this workshop to share with other libraries in the state.
Your follow-up meeting with Mike Grady?
Yes, and that's where we need to put a technology committee together.
Okay.
I have received a quote from them, but also have, well, we'll talk about it at the technology committee.
Okay, so we're
the
planning
new-
on having a technology
Yeah.
committee meeting to
When we can talk
follow
more
up on
about
those
it.
things. Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions on the administrative report? And I guess we can toss in there the stats.
I do. Under marketing PR, you're just reiterating here what this was, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Also, the Lakeside Club gave the library $750. They call it a grant. We didn't apply for it. It's just something they give to the library and the Historical Museum every year. And then there's other organizations in the county that apply. And so I attended the luncheon where they gave us the check for this, and was really, once again, really impressed by the different organizations in Manistee County covering so many needs for the people in the county. And the Lakeside Club help those organizations succeed and do what they do. So I did let the Lakeside Club know, because everyone had to speak on what they were going to give and not having submitted a grant application. So I let them know that because we are still in the process of creating that teen space and we'll need additional furniture for that, I let them know that we would utilize the $750 for that space.
Any other questions? Or on the statistics? I have a observation on the statistics.
Another error?
Yeah, I think so. On the circulation statistics, the October 2017 number, I think that first number is supposed to be 9,817,
Okay.
because otherwise the math doesn't
I
work.
tried to catch them all and let Pam know, but I might have missed some.
But, you know, 'cause otherwise we had a spectacular improvement versus a year ago. But still, you know, the totals are showing now a 3-year pattern of, you know, small but incremental growth, which is encouraging.
Yes, I was very pleased with looking at this, that the numbers are going up. I think they went up in everything except for one place. But yes, I was very pleased with the numbers and seeing that people are utilizing the library in all ways. Circulation programs, if you look at our program attendance number, 800 people attended programs in the month of October. So we're doing some good things here.
And then another observation, and I'm just kind of really throwing this out there is, you know, maybe in some future time or during strategic planning, we could think about this, is in looking at the circulation statistics at the branch level, you know, there's a couple branches that have significant, I mean, obviously this facility is, you know, by far the largest, but even of the branches, you know, there's a couple that are significantly more active than others. And then on the backside, I think these are the borrowers in the different communities. And, you know, there's also a distinction there. And my understanding right now is that other than Arcadia, all the other branches have essentially the exact same number of hours.
Yeah.
And maybe we should consider adjusting that for where the demand is, maybe offering a little bit more as far as hours and services, if the budget allows, obviously, but
That
that
would
comes into play.
mean more staffing.
Because, you know, one size doesn't necessarily fit all
No.
when you look at how facilities in the communities are using the library. Now, you could look at it the other way and say, well, maybe the other branches are areas where we need to do more outreach and, you know, PR so that it balances out. But, you know, I just was an observation when, you know, some branches are, you know, servicing, you know, twice as many checkouts as others, but yet we're providing essentially equal resources.
Absolutely, and I really took, I mean, especially for Lloyd and Wellston, Swallow and Wellstone, look at the circulation numbers. What creates those numbers, it's
There's a lot
hard.
of factors.
Yeah, it's hard to, and I know, I was looking at Arcadia yesterday, I mean, I know they have really limited hours, but, kind of thinking about the winter time and what's it gonna be like, because you look at, the month of October, 236 checkouts, that's not a lot, so what do we do there? So there are a lot of factors, and how do we move forward? How can we, do we need to do more marketing, like you say, Nakama and Kalawa, what's creating those numbers? So something we definitely have to look at.
I have a question regarding like Arcadia particularly, are numbers higher in the summertime when we have more snowbirds here? I think that summertime the numbers are higher in Arcadia, and probably in the wintertime it goes down based on people leaving and going to warmer climes.
And I would guess the same for Nakama too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I got a question for you. Now, the number of checkouts, how many, and do you have statistics on how many different people check out the books? Or any checkouts?
What do you mean, like
Like,
adults, children?
well, like my granddaughter, she either goes to Bear Lake, or Nakama, or Calville.
Mhm,
She reads all the time.
mhm.
So whichever branch she takes her books out of, that number will go up.
Right,
So I'm just wondering, are you keeping track of the different people in each library?
yeah, we can run a report and say how many adults, how many juvenile, how many,
Well, would that be the patrons and library number? Do you have that broken down by branch? So like if Arcadia is 211, that means in the month of October, there were 211 people, but and not necessarily different people? I mean, if I came in 3 times in that.
You're counted.
Yeah, so you're on there, so but it's how many times people walked into the library
Yep,
and
yep.
did something?
Yeah, it could be
So if you're in every day,
10
then
people
you're
coming.
then you're however many days. it's
Yeah.
over. Okay.
Not isolating the repeat users then, that we're not capable
No,
of
no,
isolating.
if you come into the library today, you're counted. You come into the library tomorrow, you're counted. Yeah, it's walking through the door.
Okay. Is there any way to identify, maybe using the library card number with the software to see who are our higher users?
As far
Like
as,
Richard's granddaughter.
And why would we want to do that? I mean, is there a reason?
That our real
No.
number will be
Your real number of patrons would be,
different.
yeah, it'd be different.
Okay, so you're not interested in finding out the name of this
No,
person is?
just the
okay,
number.
all right, just, yes,
Right.
if people
So
come.
But you-
basically the number of
we don't
unique
I was just bringing up an
patrons
example.
checking out materials each month per branch.
Yeah.
Yes, the information
Yeah.
is available.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
It
probably.
just
I'm not sure what it
would
would
be
do
finding
for
it.
you.
I don't either, but.
Well, you're right, is it?
I mean, if you want it,
is
I'll
ser-
give it to
Is
you.
the Arcadia branch servicing 10 people who come in a lot and that's it?
The
Or is
numbers
it-
have never
okay.
been that great in Arcadia,
Right,
even in summer,
Right.
they just haven't been there.
it's a small community.
But also
Yeah.
remember that prior to my arrival, the library had never kept track of people walking through the door.
That is true, so we don't have multi-year numbers.
Yeah, so that's why we're almost to that 1 year mark. So,
And also Arcadia's 2 days a week or 3?
3,
Versus 5 in the other branches.
right.
So that's
Well,
also,
that's the-
It's a community of 600 people.
I know, it's
You know, if we
very
have
small.
200
And how many in the
coming
winter?
And you have Onekama and Bear Lake, I mean, it's not that big a geography where you can't go to actually a bigger library, a better newer, and, you know,
So
so.
what'd be more interesting to see geographically where people are coming from, and to kind of draw a circle around these different branches to see where we're collecting people from.
Yeah.
So that would be actually
Well,
really
you can
interesting.
tell that by the library card.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be,
that's another.
but
use
two,
of the library
200
card
out of
number.
600 people, that's,
But again, that's not unique.
Right.
It could be 10
It's
people
fine.
coming
Right.
22 months,
Yeah.
so
Right.
probably not, but.
Right.
And I also think a lot of people, the Arcadia use Frankfurt.
Yeah. The different systems now.
Yeah, that's true. If you're north. Because when you consider Frankfurt is actually at that point.
I was gonna
closer,
say it's closer.
As is the library in Pilar Benzano.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, committee reports.
so the
Policy
I'm sorry.
committee met and there are meetings in front of us.
So,
Minutes.
we've been meeting every month, and sometimes, in between we'll be, so we've been very active trying to make our way through the policies. And we had started off being really methodical, but as issues have come up, we've been bouncing around a little bit. But the bylaws did take us quite a while, and so I just preface these minutes with, we meet quite regularly. And this time we met, and we talked about the Michigan Public Library Trustees Manual, to which Deborah, at our request, emailed out to everybody, just so you can have a copy. Barbara and I got one when we joined the board, but I have no idea if the other board members had ever received it. So Joyce had received it before our policy committee meeting, and she had read it, really read it, and she and I actually have gone over it a couple of times now. And it's enlightening because it really teaches you what it means to be a board member and what our job is and how we should conduct ourselves. And it was just really, really great. And it was nice also affirmation that the bylaws that we just amended, or that we're proposing to be amended, follow suit with what we should be doing. So, it's always good to have that validation. But really, we strongly recommend that everybody reads it. Joyce read every single word in this document pretty much. And then we went over every single thing. Yeah, she pulled apart. So and the stuff that even she was, I read it, but she really read it, you know what I mean? And so I just kind of encouraged us all to do what she did.
It takes time though.
Yeah.
It is a
It's not
100-page document.
And it is not a once, you can't
And
sit
you
down once
can't-
and get through it.
And you can't read it just once, you have to read it 2 or
Again.
3 times
I almost
or
think we should
more.
have a book club on it because it's really
By
good.
section,
Yeah, by section. So we did that, we went through that, and then we also talked about the evaluation. So the meeting might have gone a little bit in another direction, but I was charged with writing the evaluation for our executive director, and I've done a couple renditions and had a little bit of feedback, and it's just falling flat. And so we talked a little bit about that because Joyce really found some sections in here in the manual that could help frame our discussion. So basically pointing out that, to evaluate anyone, you need benchmarks. That's really the most fair way to do it, and we don't have benchmarks. And so, we're going to talk about this later on in the meeting, but we just had a discussion about that. And then recommended that today we go into a closed session to talk about the evaluation of our executive director and make some decisions. So we'll see what the board wants to do when we get to that part of the agenda. But, and then we did review the library mileage reimbursement policy and made a couple tweaks, and hopefully you saw that in the packet. It's just the red. And Deborah felt that there needed to be some clarification. Primarily really encouraging staff to use the library van. And then clarifying how mileage is reimbursed. So if anybody has any questions on that policy, I believe today we should be looking at that and approving it so that we can, under new business, we're gonna do that. So those are the things that we talked about.
Any questions for the policy committee?
So after we look at the Michigan Public Libraries trustee manual, do you want us to get back to anyone or just let Deborah know, or just
No,
kind of do
just-
this casually?
No,
As
just
you
read
said,
it.
You would just, okay.
No, there's no,
Okay, I didn't know if we,
don't
if
follow
you wanted us to have homework.
if you don't
homework
read it.
report. So, okay, all right, yeah. so
No, I mean,
what it does, and what it opened up to my eyes, and is there's two of you that did not really have any experience with the prior board. And there is a lot in here that gives instruction as to what the board actually should be doing, as far as what you've experienced in your year here is much more dynamic and much more forward-moving. And this is actually a reflection of our real responsibilities. And this is what hit me, is that there was a lot more that we should be doing, and a lot more that we should know about. And this is, I just think this is a good Bible for the board to follow.
Well, can I say that the first time that I went through that manual, it was like I was very overwhelmed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't understand this language at all, and I have to go through it again. So I have pulled out from the old to compare with what you're doing, because I can only do it in small doses.
Are you talking about the manual or the bylaws?
There's two different things we're talking, yeah.
Right.
There's the bylaws and there's the Michigan, the state of Michigan, the link that they sent us.
Oh,
We're
The
talking-
trustee
yeah.
manual,
I
and you
guess I was
received a
talking about
binder when you
this
first
manual.
started.
This,
I think that's in there. I read that one too.
oh, okay, yeah.
Which
you
I
probably got when you came on the board,
Yeah,
as you
right,
said,
yep.
yeah.
Well,
I
agree
read
with
both
you.
of them, but
Yeah.
I
It is
still,
overwhelming.
I felt they were both overwhelming to me, because I found that every profession has their own language, and sometimes you have to go through and figure out what that language is, and then you have to go back and read it again, and then you have a little better understanding. By the time you go through it the third or the fourth time, then you get a little better understanding.
Well,
So-
I got nothing as a board member as far as orientation. And I sat down with this up here. Oh my God, I felt like I wasn't even doing my job, because I didn't know. I did ask questions, but overwhelmed was the feeling I had too. And I sat there for half a day going through this thing. And it's a lot.
It's
a
a
lot to
lot.
digest.
And that's what I'm finding.
And as far as language, it's putting yourself in the other
Right.
mind frame,
Right.
if you will. Just,
It is.
the words are framed, the words are familiar, but they're framed differently.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And if you ever have any questions, please email me, please come see me,
Well,
please call me. If I don't have the answers, I have colleagues that will have the answers. I think.
You are a librarian after all.
I am. We don't know everything, but we know how to find the answer. So
Right,
please
I
feel free
understand that.
to, and I think I can pretty much, I can't really say off the top of my head, but sum up your role. Your role is to advocate for the library, to be a positive force out in the community, to oversee the budget, to oversee the facilities, and to really encourage your director, to support your director, and to allow your director to do the day-to-day operations.
exactly.
So that, in a nutshell, would really sum it up. And all the other stuff, like I said, if you have questions, please come see
I
me.
gotta know enough to ask the questions, but.
Well, there is a comment back in here which I find very interesting, because if the board is not cohesive and not working as one with the director, and they're not a strong, involved board, the library in the community will reflect that. And this is the job ahead of us, is to make this change, because it didn't. And when I came on, I was amazed. And I asked a lot of questions, because it was a joke after a while. But I wasn't satisfied with some of the answers I got, as far as what is happening. So this is what I'd like to see, everybody really know this and know it well, so that when we proceed, we understand why we're doing something. You know, in other words, we're proceeding as a group,
one mind of one purpose type of thing. We have our own opinions, but, and our questions, but we're on the same track.
Right,
Okay.
but, and I was impressed when I came on this board that all of us, I'm impressed at the way we all work together.
This is new.
That's what I understand.
This is what's fun about this board, because this board is much more dynamic and involved, committed also.
Right.
And,
Thank you.
the thing that, the way we presented this statement, and I want to go over this again, is because we have to consider where the board was and the library was, and create our benchmarks for evaluating Deborah in a way that it reflects just what had to be done in the year she's here as far as getting things moving. In other words, working through all the chafe that we had. So this is, it's important to create benchmarks, not sterile, but benchmarks, say like our strategic plan. We have to look at what we were and who we are now, and what has been accomplished by Deborah in that time period. Then we measure it against where we'd like to go and what we'd like to do with the strategic plan. It's like, to me, like a two-step process. It's not gonna be cut and dry. That's all my only comments.
Okay. Anything else for the policy committee? We can move on to old business then, library projects update.
I don't really have a whole lot to report on the library projects. There's a lot of things that have come up, staffing, dealing with staffing issues. So that's really taking up a lot of my time. And also with, companies not returning. I'm still waiting for Hagelins to come and measure the tile. And so just a lot of standstill. We have, we ordered, last month, the update I gave you. Also, we're still waiting on the Spicer Group.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, we're still waiting on
I was
them.
wondering about that.
We did, we figured we had $3,000 left in the Selma, which we ordered our first set of shelves, which are due to arrive sometime in the next couple of weeks. And then earlier this year, through a different company, back in July, we ordered a couple, actually I think it's 3, rotating bookshelves for our juvenile books on CDs that are out here so that we can get those shelves off the wall and make more space. And we also ordered an indoor drop box or book box that we are waiting for, so that when patrons come in, rather than the books getting mixed up with what people are checking out, what needs to be checked in, we have the idea of having an indoor drop box for patrons to utilize for returning books rather than just putting them on the counter and getting mixed up. So all of that stuff is due to arrive sometime in December so that we can have the final, we will have spent the Selma one for this year. So that's what I have, so just waiting, and hopefully after the holidays, come January, we can get these projects lined up and get moving in the new year.
Do we, since those items are the ones, Spicer and Hagelins are taking a while, do we need to start planning for the next stage of the project, seeing how long it's taking to get quotes? Do we know what the next step is after those things? And do we need to get started on it?
Well,
The facilities committee.
yes, I've got ready to make plans for the different committees for January. So before we leave today, if we could all get together and get those dates set for January, that would be wonderful.
Deborah, can we go back, there's a
I apologize.
policy that we didn't cover.
I apologize. I left off the minutes that we talked about the new meeting room policy.
That's actually in the
It's
new
not new
business.
business.
It's coming up.
It's a new
Oh,
business.
okay.
Just so you know, I forgot to put that in the minutes, so, thank you.
On these projects, are you receiving 3 bids?
We are attempting to.
Yeah.
We try,
The board has,
can't even get two.
in the past, waived that because we couldn't get enough bids after multiple attempts. So,
I just know that it's county policy, that you have to have 3 bids, and it became a big issue this last month.
Well, what happens if you can't find two?
Then you turn in your one and hopefully it gets approved.
Oh, but you should show that you went out.
Yeah,
you-
tried.
You tried to
I mean,
reach, you
another
talked to
thing-
various companies.
Another thing they always say, you gotta get 3 bids.
Yeah.
Now, if I want you to get the bid, and I'm a purchasing person, I know where to send the bid, so you get the bid. You gotta remember that too, right there. So, but it was an issue.
So as long as you document that you made these attempts. And
Send them out.
Right.
there were companies not in the companies were not in the area for your need, or
Yeah.
they didn't respond.
I know early on when I started and we did the, for the website, if you guys recall, and I sent them to several companies and received nothing. You know, so, I mean,
Well, that's what happened on the back steps here too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
company,
you
I
guys
think,
only
came
got
out of
one,
Grand Rapids and did this.
Yeah.
mhm.
And I actually talked to some of the contractors around here, and I know why they didn't bid. They were busy doing something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's what I'm running into, everybody is busy,
Mhm.
you know, so.
okay, bylaws. Next old business item.
I brought extra copies if, we, in our policy committee meeting, we did not, make any additional, revisions except for one, and because Roz had sent, I put it in your board packet, Roz's comments. So as we started talking about those different things, we decided it would be better to discuss, Roz's thoughts with the entire board. So as I said, there's no revisions on this copy. If you need a copy, let me know. Hi, anyone else?
Is this it?
Yeah, the one that you received last month.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, because I didn't bring mine.
I guess, Ross, thanks so much for these comments. It really generated a lot of discussion for us.
Okay. I read them over and said, oh, those aren't very clear, so thank
Well,
you for,
it's
so
not-
I, you know, if you
No.
need elaboration on anything, I was like, oh, I couldn't.
No, just really appreciate, like, we were all just really appreciative that
Ta-ta.
for them.
I have it.
So, we didn't receive any additional comments other than Roz's, so I don't know if you guys want to go through this or just, we'll go off of Roz's email that she sent.
Well, when you think about it, this is the first time the board has seen any of these revisions, so
Yeah.
I almost wonder if we.
No, they saw them last month.
Oh,
Well,
we haven't talked about
we
them.
haven't
yet.
talked.
Right, right.
We haven't
Everybody was
given-
supposed to take it home and read it.
We have,
Right.
beyond that, we haven't had like a formal presentation of the bylaws. And so I don't know if it would be helpful if we just kind of quickly went through it and just talked a little bit about each section. I don't know how you guys want to approach it.
That would be.
Roz and I know it inside and out, so
Right.
would that be helpful to you guys? if
Because
we-
and I think it ties into some of Roz's comments
Absolutely, and we
as
could.
to
Right.
why a set of
Blend them
changes
both.
were being
Absolutely.
introduced. So knowing that background, and again, your
Sure.
committee,
Sure.
along with you, would be the ones that would provide that background.
Deborah, do you want to go?
You know, and lead it. Okay,
I think
so,
it's appropriate,
or
or is it appropriate?
I don't know.
I think it's really more of a board,
Okay.
the
You
board
lead
is
it.
creating the board
Okay.
bylaws, not the director.
Would you promise me though, just do you want to go through it?
No, go
Okay,
ahead.
so jump in when you remember something or if I'm not saying it correctly. So, so as you see, what's in red is what was added. And Barbara, you're right, we didn't, in this copy, track for you the changes. We just made them and they're reflected in the red. So I can
Right,
see your struggle that you were going back to the old to look at.
Well, I just wanted to review the old in order
Right.
to know what was, but I'm so pleased to see the mission statement and the vision statement.
So,
And are those our current
Yes.
mission and vision statements reflected out of our strategic
Yes.
planning? 'Cause
Yeah.
Yep, that is correct.
So definitely, the thought was to link the board's strategic plan with the bylaws as much as possible. So, we added the mission statement, vision statement from the strategic plan. And so that was it. And also, you will note, if you're trying to bounce between the old and the new, it's been reorganized.
Right.
And so that might cause some issues when we're
No,
going back.
this is
And, okay, so, and the reorganization really was reflective of the group's ideas of how things should fall when you're looking through bylaws. And if you guys have any thoughts that you don't like the way it's organized, we're open to changing it. It really just made sense to us. So at any rate, the first change really, except for the addition of the vision statement and the mission statement, is when we get to Article 4, the Board of Trustees Stated Responsibilities, and it starts on line 50. Do you see each line has a number? Does your line 50 start with number 1, a board member as an individual? Okay. So what we did with this section is to review bylaws from other libraries, and with consideration of the library manual as well. So the first one really speaks to our authority. So a board member as an individual has no official authority outside of board meetings. Board members may not give orders to the executive director or any other staff members. It's highly improper for a board member to make promises or determine new policies outside legally established board meetings. So that really kind of talks about how, as board members, the work that we do is done during these meetings. And it kind of also reflects what Joyce was saying, and you also, Barbara, how we have to work as a team. So when you're working as a team, you're not a team if you go outside of these board meetings and do work, in the library, talking to library employees, having private meetings maybe with them or with patrons. Of course, we all run into people and they give us comments. That's not what this is talking about. It's when you actively seek out things to do outside of a board meeting without the rest of the board knowing about it. So that's kind of what that is talking about. This is kind of a standard thing that every board, for no matter what organization you work on, this is what board members only work within the board meeting setting. Unless, as a board, you decide to give out little jobs and people go do it, they come back and they report. But I can't even think of a time when that's happened with a board.
It's also a reminder that even in our committee meetings, we're not the board, so if we're taking action, the committee doesn't take
That's
action, it has to
such
go back to the board.
That's such a good
So,
point,
yeah.
absolutely.
You're an advisory.
Right,
That's a good point.
yeah, so, yeah, I like
What we're
that.
doing is, in a meeting, like the policy meeting, we're digesting some of this information, putting it in a form for the board to review and accept or reject.
And I so appreciate it because, like, for finance, that's not my expertise, so I rely on the people on that committee who have that expertise to digest the information, then bring back their recommendation. So yeah, I think so. But so that's the number one thing. We work within the board, and we don't do things outside of the board meetings. Number 4 on line 57, we develop policies. And we look for ways to carry out those policies. We ourselves do not carry out the policies. It's pretty much giving direction to the executive director, who then takes it and runs with it. But so I think that's enough said. Number 7. So we rely on our state law, but also our executive director to help us with state and federal legislation. We're not the experts, but she or he is hired to be the expert, and we need to, we need to listen to that and consider that. Number 11, delegation of day-to-day administration of library functions, to the executive director, all community communication, outreach, collaboration, and other day-to-day administration of the library. So again, that's saying, it's kind of tying back to number one, really, we work here, but the executive director is the one who goes out into the community and is the voice of the library. We advocate for the library, so we are always positive and we're always supportive of the library, even if maybe we know there are things that we're working on and we have issues with, but when we are out there, we are the face of the library. But we're not creating policies, we're not making decisions of the collaboration or partnership with groups. We might be seeking opportunities, and we bring those opportunities back to the executive director or maybe the board for us to talk about as a team, but we're not actually creating those connections ourselves and signing contracts or promising anything. We certainly aren't promising anything. But we can, but we have to rely on our executive director to be that face and that person who goes out and does that for us.
I guess I'm a little concerned by the breadth of what's there.
Yeah.
Because I think
You
it,
tell.
Especially for the president of the board, who I think can also be a representative of the library, maybe not so much the rest of
I
it.
mean, I think there are things that boards can do and do in interaction and collaboration with other boards.
But not by yourself. You would come back to the full board and
Yes.
say, hey, we want to go and work with the armory or to do something really interesting. You wouldn't go and do that on your own.
But this is the Board of Trustees' responsibility. So it's not an individual's responsibility, this is the responsibility of the board. And it's saying I'm reading this as saying we don't have any responsibility in collaborating as a board with other organizations.
I think the thing to
That
focus
wasn't our
on,
intent.
that wasn't our intent, so let's dissect that a little bit,
Right.
because it says delegation of day-to-day administration. That's the thing to focus on.
Yeah,
Okay, so then what you're
Semicolon.
saying is as we go into the red,
right.
we're taking away from board responsibility by having the executive director be the point person for community communication, outreach, collaboration, other day-to-day administration of the
Well,
library.
And it possibly depends on where that all is reflecting. I read that as all community communication, all outreach, all collaboration, and other day-to-day.
Would it help to remove the all? The only thing that I want us to consider.
I guess to me, it was fine as it was. You know, delegation of day-to-day administration functions to the executive director. I'm not sure why specifying in more detail is necessary.
I think that there might be things that have happened in the last year that board members might have gone beyond the scope of number
Wouldn't they
11.
have gone beyond the scope of number 11 as it was?
I think the
So-
additional red helps clarify for board members.
Except I don't think it does clarify. I think it is a murky set of issues.
Right.
So, for example,
Okay.
we've talked about this in our strategic planning about fostering relationships with other organizations, especially the school systems. And a part of that happens at the superintendent to executive director level, but some of that may happen at the board level, where the two boards may have a joint work session.
Right,
This to me would say we can't do that.
no it doesn't, because this says
It's-
day-to-day administration. That wouldn't be a day-to-day
But it's
administration, that
outreach,
would be.
outreach, that's outreach.
Yeah.
That's collaboration.
It's day-to-day collaboration, day-to-day.
Well,
This
should I
is
have not this summer, did an informational presentation at the Onekama Village and Township? I mean, is that,
But that was
Should I-
that part of our campaign?
Yeah,
That-
it was
was-
part of the.
And
had to
everybody knew you
do
were
with-
doing it.
right, but do I, you know,
No.
could it be, you know?
No, but Barbara going down to the armory and talking to them and possibly offering shelving, that
No, I
probably was
didn't
out.
offer them shelving. I just, from the Friends of the Library, when we had the library book sale, when it was raining and it was up here, and they went through, because they asked for, I wanted to see what the armory was like. That, as a citizen of Manistee, I wanted to know. And I was really impressed, and they wanted books, and after the book sale, they had all of these young adult books that the armory said they could use because they already had bookshelves. So I take books to the senior center, it goes to,
That's
We
just
took-
that's just the Friends of the Library, not
that's
the board.
through the
That's
Friends of
nothing to
the
do
Library,
with the
that has
board.
nothing to do with the board.
How would you like to fix it, Barry?
Again, I believe the language as was is fine.
You know what, it's just, there's like this white elephant in the room of things that have happened in the year, that, you know, I've been on the board, and maybe it didn't quite understand some of these things that happened. Maybe they were relayed inaccurately, but, for example, like that situation that Barbara has clarified for us. But there's a couple other things, and maybe it was gossip, but it seems like there might be more effort by board members to work outside of the board than actually inside the board. And we thought that this language would help clarify our role and responsibility. So, but if this number 11, the way it's written, you feel that it's taking away from our role as a board member, then I think it should be changed, but we do need to address our responsibilities as a board when we have to work as a team and not outside the board, which is really what that was trying to, it was trying to support the executive director, who should be the point person for all things outside of our board responsibilities, and to help board members understand that. So if it's not doing that goal,
And to me, that's what 11 is saying, unmodified.
It hasn't drawn the distinctions that, of the role of the trustee, because it's clearly identified in here, in the trustee manual. And then we just wanted to apply what was found in the trustee manual to this particular number 11. And making the distinction of, we're trying to draw the point that as a board, we work as a unit, not as individuals. And then the delegation of the day-to-day library functions cover all these different items. But our responsibility as a trustee is much more encompassing. Yes, we can do outreach and collaboration. However, we do it as a unit. We don't do it as individuals. The individual work is left to the
But we do it as individuals as well. You can't be an advocate for an organization if the only way you speak is in a formal meeting.
Or.
I mean, it's basically, I mean, to me, taking this to the potential extreme says, I can't talk about the library outside of this meeting
It's-
because I cannot, that's communication or outreach. I can't talk to my friends and neighbors. I can't talk to peers in the community talking about the library. To me, that
Okay, then,
very much limits our advocacy role as board members.
so you're talking
We
about the
can't-
word all then.
But the thing is, if you're gonna put that in there, then why not list other day-to-day administration? You know, I mean, the fact that you singled those out, in a way does, and I also think we have to remember this document is not just for this board and this director. There could be a time where we have a director that is strong in everything else but not public relations, and we say, that's now the board president is gonna be doing more of that, speaking to group, because we have a director who is not a public, so I think that limits, I think we have to make sure this is not specific to our makeup and
Little
board
bit
and
more
our
broader.
talent and the talent of our executive director.
I would be comfortable with all official communication, outreach, collaboration. Because then it is something that the board has authorized and wanting to be done. But there's a lot of communication that happens unofficially in an advocacy role that I read this as limiting us. So those are my concerns.
Okay, so you're saying if we put in the word official, it might help with the problem?
Because we
I think
cannot
Roz
speak
is sug-
officially
Mhm.
as individuals. We can only speak officially in group or delegated.
I think that's a great distinction. I think Roz makes a really good point, though, that we list a few, but it's not an all-encompassing list of things that happen as day-to-day operations. So I could see, I think that's a really good point, too.
Yeah, the addition of the word official makes me feel more comfortable with it.
And could we maybe add and other functions?
And other, yeah,
Well, it does say another day-to-day.
Oh, okay, well,
I
then
guess
there you go.
I
We
guess
got
that
it.
is in there.
Okay, so we'll add official, and as we move through it, if that still is a sticky point,
No, I think that
do
clears
you
us
think
up,
that will
is
clear it
that
up?
Yeah.
Do you,
as we advocate, we are speaking clearly unofficially at a more personal level
right,
in talking about the library. We cannot speak officially outside of being full board.
so can I, because this, we really spent a lot of time on this section, because we really,
I can understand.
yeah, we really, as a matter of fact, probably the bulk of our time on this section, because we, whether it's truths or rumors, over time, we've heard a lot of different things, okay? And so this section really was supposed to try to help us understand what our role is as a board member, and then almost like the benchmark, like if you, as we have things that happen, we can go back to the bylaws and say, hey, really remember, this is not part of our job as a board. So can I at least, I think I'd feel comfortable, at least have validation that this section really, you guys understand what we were trying to achieve with it. Because I really just want to make sure that we all understand as a board that we really have a very defined role.
But I think there's other tools we can use besides getting specific in the bylaws. I think
Okay.
having us read that Michigan
Mhm.
trustee manual, having trainings once in a while,
Yes.
having us say, go on a webinar and do this. So I don't think it has to be on the bylaws to
All
get
encompassing.
detailed.
Okay,
I think, but I think you're in the right direction though. so,
okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you. I like the idea of more training too, I think that's a really good idea. Okay, so let's, line 83. The Manistee County Library Master Plan and Strategic Plan annually reviewed and updated as needed, so that's one of our functions. There's never been anything in there tying bylaws to that.
The way that is worded, it to me is referring to two different documents.
It is, because there are
Do
two
we actually
different,
have both of those?
yes, your master.
I questioned the same thing.
Because I'm not sure I've seen both.
Well, the master plan was written in 2012, and I think Cindy Fuller might have helped you with that. I'm not quite sure who did the master plan. In that master plan, it's more encompassing than just a strategic plan, because that's where you analyze and wrote in the document your understanding of library systems, and you analyzed your library, compared them. You did all the public outreach, and it's captured in that master plan. You talk a little bit more about the facility. So it's a
Right.
much more in-depth,
Except it's completely out of date.
it absolutely is.
My point.
It is, but-
So I'm uncomfortable, or
But at some point,
You
I
have
would
to-
assume we're going to
You can
update it.
But this is saying, well, we've gotta get this done because it has to be
Annually.
done annually and it hasn't been done, so I'm just wondering, I
So,
mean, is.
okay, I see what you're
And-
saying,
and-
master plans you don't update annually, so that's a really good point. The strategic plan, you
because
prob-
I see that document as a combination of master plan and strategic plan.
Yeah.
Not as solely a master plan. And therefore.
What was the intention when it was written in 2012?
Well, it's called a strategic plan, or
No,
no,
it's
that's
called-
actually the.
No, the first one's called a master plan. I suppose you could
Yeah.
say to yourself, master plans are generally the document that really does that deep dive into statistics. You know, you look at demographics, you look at geography, you look at your system as a whole, you study it, you understand it, and then from there you start developing your goals. A strategic plan, you don't really spend any time studying your library. You're just coming up with your goals that you want to achieve, and they're usually
During that
reflected from the
time period.
previous year.
Yeah.
And they're a shorter time frame. The master plan sets much longer range vision for the library, and it has all that data and understanding backed up. So I don't know much about libraries. I don't know if libraries usually have a master plan. But I do know you need something to base your thinking on when you do your strategic plan. And you did use the master plan for your thinking when you did your first strategic plan.
Yeah, well, the master plan, obviously, 3 of us were not on the board at the time,
Yeah.
so we really
All of
need
us.
to.
I don't
Any
think
of you?
No.
Oh, so I guess at this point, I like the idea of making a master plan, but until we've done it, I don't know about saying that we need to annually review and
I
update it.
think that's
so.
such a good point. You don't annually update it anyway, so this should be changed. The strategic plan, do you have issues with it being annually updated?
That should be annually
Yes.
updated. I like
Okay,
that.
okay. Okay, so, so I think maybe these are 2 different things. So I just crossed out Manistee County Library Master Plan and, I crossed out those words. And we'll just leave strategic plan annually reviewed and updated as needed. What, do you want to do anything to put a master plan? Do you want to forget about
I
the
don't
master
think
plan?
that needs to be in the bylaws.
But
Okay.
yeah,
I think that may
should
come
discuss
out
it.
of our, we've talked about doing maybe a community survey in 2019, and I think that's where this updated master plan would come from.
Or a
Okay.
goal out of an annual strategic plan update
Right.
might be
Sounds great.
to.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so then moving on to Article 5.
Hey, are you looking for typos in here also as we
Course,
go through?
please.
Line 80, there's a 7 in the word publicly. Okay.
And in line 54, there's 3 E's.
Too many E's.
54? Oh my gosh, look at that. Well, Deborah did it, so. Blame Deborah.
Just wanted to get the point across.
Okay, so Article 5, our code of ethics, so it's all red, and we lifted this, and we have cited it. United for Libraries, Public Library Trustees Ethics Statements. And, do you want to go through each one of these?
It's basically what every library across America uses.
I guess my only questions, and these might be quibbles, is, 104, we're not elected by the public, but public pressure should have some effect on us. I mean, besides being open, I mean, truly, if there was a large group that wanted to do a certain thing, I don't know, it's kind of a gray area. I mean, we shouldn't be pressured, but we do need to I don't know.
Well,
just
I
don't
see
like-
what you're saying,
you know,
like reflective of
someone
the
could wanna
people
get on-
want to.
Right, and someone could want to get on the board, people do want to get on, they do have agendas, which can be a good or bad thing. So I don't know, so that, I was just like, yes, you are swayed by things like that, I don't, so I don't know, that one just seemed,
Well, it's a difference of.
I'm quibbling, so it's a good point.
It's
So, I
a
mean, I
difference
can-
of soliciting and receiving comments or information from the public that would create public pressure versus an individual's response to public pressure, if you were targeted or,
Okay.
that's the difference I
Okay.
see.
Okay, I'm thinking, suppose there was a group who said, we need to build a new modern library in a new building. I mean, that could be a pressure group. Yes, we should be
Oh, well,
engaged
listen,
in with them.
well,
But you're, if
that's-
you're saying, you know,
To
as
me, that's
compared to-
community input,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
but if it was to be,
okay. Okay, I
Trustee.
think, you know, it's a broad enough statement, I'm okay, I can work with that.
Okay. We went,
Any-
I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna say anything in the subsequent items? Mary, any?
And, I don't know, on the last one, you could get someone who gets on the board because they want to censor. I mean, it
Yes.
can be, you
Yeah.
know, is.
I think you've been there, done that.
But,
I don't
but we're
know
not
that
here
much.
to censor. Libraries, there's a, and I can get that for you. We are not here to censor any library materials. We are here to provide whoever you are, whatever your interest is, and that's not our mission. So
That's
I
very-
can get more information on that.
And I don't particularly need.
I know
No,
people
but I'm
do
just
it,
bringing it up for
but
discussion.
that's
Fine.
not,
Right.
as a library board,
And if-
as a library director, as library staff, we are not here to tell a person, no, we're not going to get that for you.
It is stated rather clearly in this trustee manual about censorship and the distinction of the role of the library.
Okay, good.
Yeah. In other words, when I read it, there didn't seem to be anything in conflict here.
So this ethics section is really important because it reins in our behavior. And if anybody feels like we should go through them one by one, we could do that relatively quickly, but I actually think this is one of the most important sections of the bylaws. When we compared it to the old bylaws, it really wasn't too different, but it was just nicer language. And so that's why we adopted the other language. But do you want to go through each one of them, or do you feel comfortable? Okay. But Roz, please point out when we, so you had something here on the Code of Ethics. You say more clarification it may be helpful. Yeah, is it, wasn't it
Okay, all right, yeah,
clear?
see, that's why okay.
Okay.
Actually, it's not about the code of ethics, it's
Oh.
really about the, oh wait, new edition
Is
number
that this
5,
one?
fails to
It's
comply
on
with.
page 8.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, then we'll get there.
Okay.
I see number 5, so I thought maybe that meant Article 5. Then let's just continue on page 6 for Article 6. Not much change, except we added E on line 155. The Manistee County Library Board of Trustees President, so this is a president's responsibility, hears complaints brought against board members or the executive director. If unsuccessful in resolving, so this actually establishes a process. So if there is a complaint about the executive director or a board member, it goes to, and so if the complaint can't be resolved by the executive director or the president, which is the first part of the process, the person who's making the complaint can request in writing to be brought to the full board. It has to be done in writing, it has to be done before the agenda is set. So that's just providing an opportunity for someone who has a complaint that they feel is not resolved by the executive director, it's not resolved by the board president, to then have it brought in front of the entire board so that they can find some relief, some help with their issue.
I guess and this touches on some of the other comments that Roz made, is the last part of that. I'm not sure that that's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act, because I think every person has a right at public opinion or public comment to speak on any topic, regardless of whether or not they followed this procedure. I'm not sure we can limit and basically say, oh, you can't talk about that, it's a complaint, you didn't follow the procedure.
That's a good
Well,
point.
this is saying they can't be put on the agenda. It's not limiting public comments.
This is allowing them access to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so-
Outside of public comment.
So they definitely can come to public comment, and actually it would be wonderful if people did that more often. But if they wanted
I'm not necessarily to
to.
complain.
No, I'm not gonna complain either,
Say
but
good
if they
things.
wanted access to, you know, the full-time consideration, that being an agenda item affords you.
I guess the last sentence.
What is the last sentence that it's signed
Charges
by the
and complaints
complainant?
are required to be in writing and signed by the complainant for board consideration.
I think that might be reflective of an issue that happened this year. with-
No, I
Right.
understand. It just, again, that sentence doesn't say for board consideration as an agenda item. It
Okay.
just says,
Oh,
we
okay.
can't
Sure.
consider public comment because it wasn't in writing.
Okay, how about required to be in writing, for an, to be placed as an
Or
agenda item?
agenda, yeah, inclusion in
Okay.
the agenda. But, you know, the thing is, I'm thinking of a community member thinking, I have a complaint, let me see what officially I need to do. They might think they have no other, I mean, it should say, I don't know if it should say, I guess it doesn't need to be in here, because this is about officers and duties.
Yeah, this
It's not about what happens at a meeting, so, so I almost wonder, here's, yeah.
This was.
I almost, yeah, I don't know if, I almost think it's that part of, this is the board, the officers' roles, they hear complaints against board members. Yeah, I don't know if this is the right place to have the detail on how it's
Should
carried
we
out.
have
Okay,
a complaint policy, much like our other policies, where this detail is, as opposed to that detail being in the bylaws?
so we did, in one of the committees that had run a personnel policy, we did flush out this process. And we have a little chart. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about it, and I agree, maybe this is not the best place for it. But there should be something that refers back to it, so it's very clear to everyone.
I mean, linking the two policies.
Okay, so I'm not quick enough on my feet today to figure out where that should go, so I don't know. Deborah, do you have a thought on how to achieve that?
Well, I think we pulled this from another library because of the fact of a situation that happened, you know, in that people, you know, if they're bringing a complaint against either the director or a staff or a board member, that it's not, you know.
The other thing where we were coming from is to avoid all the possible escalation on a he said, she said, on a totally verbal plane. And
Right.
have somebody commit their complaint in writing to for the agenda, for the board to handle.
Yeah, I just don't think this is the
This
right
is the right
place to
place.
put it. This is what the officers' duties are. I think that's detail that shouldn't be in the, I mean, I think having a complaint process
Okay.
is a great idea, but I don't know that it needs to be in this section or really in the bylaws, because that's, you know, remember, anything you put in here, you have to vote 3 times at 3 different meetings to change. So, you know,
Well-
once you put it in here, it's like, well, that's, if we say that procedure's not working, well, we can't change it for 4 months, you know, so.
I see. Would it be, to solve that, could we just leave it at, here's complaints brought against board members or executive director and follows blah policy?
Yeah.
I'm fine
That's
with that,
great,
yeah.
yeah, I like that.
What is the name of that policy, Deborah? Do we have that one developed?
I doubt it.
We saw a draft of it, because it had all those
Yeah, it's all,
boxes.
yeah, that's exactly
and-
right.
And I don't know, did we ever approve it, or
No,
did
no,
we,
no.
I remember seeing a draft of it, so.
No, it was in the minutes, so we didn't
Yeah.
go, okay, so that's something the policy committee then will,
Follows.
will get,
Personnel.
oh, the personnel committee, yeah, well,
I think
it
it's
probably
policy.
should go to
it's
personnel though.
policy.
I think it's policy.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because it's not just personnel, it's director and board, it's not just a staff policy.
Okay. Okay, great feedback. Okay, so then, let's see, where are we now? Article 8, are we at? Oh, okay, Article 8, we're on line 216. I think this is what, Roz, you were talking about. Fails to comply with trustees' code of ethics.
That's
I
right.
think this is such a valid comment that you've made. There are no parameters at all in it. It could just be.
I could see a board where the president, you know, I'm the
Yeah.
president and I don't like Joyce, and
Right.
she's disrespectful once, and I say, you're out.
Yep,
I
yep.
mean, so
Yeah.
there, it needs to be, and I also think, and this is from the old part, on line 207, the president of the Manistee County Library Board may request a resignation under the following circumstances. I think request is almost too weak, because, so I request Barry to resign, and he says, well, I don't. Well, then what's the next step?
I think
Like
it
when you're
should be
saying you
board though.
request, you know, yeah, like what's the next step if I say, as president, you were out of line, no, I'm not resigning. But that fails to
Solitary
comply,
power?
there's too much, yeah, I
Too
mean,
singular? Is this what you're saying? It's too much solitary power in one position?
it could be, and what's the interpretation of failing to comply with the trustee code of ethics? I mean, there are certain code of ethics that, yes, if you break it once, you should be out if you have, you know, but if you did, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was confidential information, I'll never do it again.
Right.
Look, sorry, you're, you know, like
Yeah.
where's the line between being malicious and being, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking once and I made an error.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even know what gross violation of the public trust really means, to be honest, but,
That one I don't mind though, because
Yeah.
that sounds, you know, but the last one is just like,
too
because you go back to
loosey-goosey.
that page and I'm like, you know, yeah, I don't know, I just seemed, or what's the you know, yeah, I just guess it's.
Deborah,
I mean-
can, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, with the full context there, that the president may request under that, I'm actually fine adding that, because that first part is relatively weak.
Okay.
The